Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, November the 28th, 2017. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. Hope you all had a wonderful week here, a wonderful Thanksgiving, and enjoyed the turkey and the football and the shopping and all that kind of good stuff. It's been obviously a very hectic week, one of the more hectic weeks of the year. So obviously, hope you all enjoyed that and everybody was safe and had a good time and all that good stuff. And here we are back here for a normal week here on the show. Two shows coming at you here this week. As always, before we get going, let me remind you all of the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show, have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411. Whenever you tweet regarding our show, if you're tweeting directly to us or any of that good stuff, please use that hashtag, if you will. And then, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. And make sure that you like us so you can follow us and keep up to date on all the latest stuff related to the show and all that. And you can interact with us and all that fun stuff. All right, so like I said, this is a pretty normal week for us on the show. We have... today is our usual sports wrestling show. Thursday, entertainment. Not anything special this week, generally. Tonight we got some wrestling. We'll talk about Raw, Smackdown, the fallout from both. We have a lot of sports stuff to get to. We got NFL Week 12. Looking ahead to Week 13, we'll talk about the Eli Manning controversy, which is probably going to be my big rant of the week. We'll talk about the college football playoff rankings, a weekend that we thought would not bring too many shocks, brought us some big shocks. You have that. And then there was also a big week in college basketball, which Thanksgiving week usually is. It was a very, very big week in college basketball. Lots of big developments. We'll talk about them. So we have a lot to get to here on the program, and we'll get to it in just a moment. Just trying to put the social media stuff up, so pardon me here. A little late in getting it up, getting these things up tonight. All right. So a lot to do. That's what's going on tonight on Thursday. Box office beat, TV highlights. We'll talk about some entertainment news. We haven't done a lot of entertainment discussion. We haven't done a lot of entertainment news discussion lately. So we'll probably do a little bit of that on Thursday because we have the time on Thursday. Excuse my dog. So we'll do a little bit of that on Thursday's show. And that'll probably be it. I thought about doing something special on Thursday, but then I'm like, you know what we've been doing? It's been so hectic around here lately, and there's been so much going on. I figured it wouldn't be the best. I figured let's just have a normal show and let's just have some fun with what we have to usually have fun with and that kind of thing. So nothing elaborate on Thursday, just a simple show. Probably be a shorter show, but hey, this one probably will be longer. So so it kind of evens out if you think about it. Next week, let's see. Next week should be a normal week. As far as I know, it should be a normal week. I don't think anything's on tap. So next week will probably be about the same as this week. So we'll have that, and then the week after that, we'll probably only do one show. But don't quote me on that yet. We'll see what happens. I'll talk to you all more about that as we get closer to that week. That's 2 weeks away. So just bear with me on that. So let me also point something out to us, to everybody out there too, because a lot of people have been asking me about, now that we're beyond Thanksgiving, a lot of people have been asking me about what the holiday schedule is going to be like, the Christmas schedule. Because now, see, this is a weird year, and this is a weird year because I've spoken about this off the air. Thanksgiving being earlier, you have that extra week between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Christmas is not a Monday. Christmas Eve's not a Sunday. So, normally you come out of Thanksgiving and, the Christmas season. I mean, the Christmas season really is here. I'm not saying it isn't, but, if you're religious, if you're Catholic, then, Advent hasn't even started yet. So you have the extra week. So with that in mind, it does throw everything's it feels a little bit different this year, if I'm being honest. Christmas is on a Monday, as is New Year's. So with that in mind, we probably could get away with doing two shows. I have not decided yet what will happen during the week between Christmas and New Year's. Normally the way it falls, we have to have 2 weeks where we only do one show. I think we'll only have to do one. If we do cancel a show, it'll be the week between Christmas and New Year's. If we do cancel a show, I'm not convinced we will. But please do not mark that in permanent marker yet. Okay, I'm gonna think about it a little bit more. I'm gonna kind of give an idea of what's going on and what's whether people would be interested in even. Pardon, my hair is going all over the place here, but I'll see how much interest there is in doing 2 shows that week. If I was gonna cancel a show that week, it would probably be Tuesday of that week because it's the day after Christmas. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll cross the bridge when we get to it. So I'll let you all. So the short answer here is, I'll let you all know about the holiday schedule, the Christmas New Year schedule, as we get closer to that time. We still have a little bit of time yet, believe it or not. So as we get closer to that time period, I will let you all know what's going on and what to expect and all that stuff. And also, I'll update you all because everybody's been asking me, well, you said all these changes, and so far there hasn't been too much in the way of changes. Folks, as I said last week, we took a step back with the holidays and that. We decided to wait on some things. New Year, we'll have that. And I'll talk more about what's coming up and what the new year is going to bring and such and over the next couple weeks. I'm not going to do it this week. I'm going to wait. But yeah, it's, once we get beyond the holidays, things are going to be a little different. And that's, that was always the plan. Any change that I implemented in the last couple months would have been very, very small. I just decided it was better just to wait. But, we'll cross, again, another bridge to cross when we get closer to it. Right now, we'll just kind of go through what we have to go through. And then in a couple weeks, we'll kind of talk more about what's going on and give you all a little bit of a layout of what's coming up in the future and all that fun stuff. So I'm kind of putting you all off on all the questions you have. But, like I said, it's the holiday season. A lot's going on. I think there's a time and a timing. This has to be timed perfectly. And I don't want to get into too much right now with everything going on and it being such a hectic time of year. So we'll talk more about these questions, these issues that I've been talking about over these last 5 minutes over the next couple of weeks. So be patient. You'll know more as we get closer to the time period that will actually be impacted by it. Because I'm going to be honest with you folks, over the next month, we're not making any changes. What we see is what you get, okay, over the next month. So don't worry about it yet. Come January will be when things start to change. So, all right. So I gave you all a little bit of insight on what's coming up and what's going on. So let's get started here as I wait for my co-host. We'll start with football here. We'll go into the NFL and start there. I don't want to talk about the Eli Manning stuff yet. We're going to wait on that for a few minutes. I want to get to the game stuff first because I think we're going to spend a little bit more time on the Eli Manning situation because it's really just ridiculous. So, and obviously we did a supersized version of the predictions last week because we had Thanksgiving week. We picked all the Thanksgiving games, and of course we picked the usual 6 games we picked from the normal weekend games. We do that every year. That's the way we handle Thanksgiving week 12. It was an interesting week in the league, much like the week before. The playoff picture continued to solidify. And I think that some teams really, I think we got a little bit more in the way of clarity in terms of really who's going to stick around in this thing. And so and that's what you want to see at this point. And in fact, it's funny for all the discussion about how it was so hard at times to figure out how everything was going to turn out in this league and who was going to be in it for real and who wasn't, who were the contenders. Really, if you look at where we're at, it coming into week 12, it really does look like a normal week 12 now. I mean, it's funny how over the last few weeks, we've ended up where we usually probably would end up. And for all the talk about media, and look, it has been a bad year in the league, and I'm not going to belabor the point. We talked at length this season about how bad of a year it's been for the league. And it got worse this week. We'll talk more about that fight in a few minutes. But if you look around the league, Okay, for all the talk of mediocrity, and again, there is still mediocre play. Look at all the teams you got with good records. The Eagles, who have the best, 10-1. The Panthers, 8-3. The Saints, 8-3. The Rams, 8-3. The Jaguars, 7-4. The Steelers, 9-2. The Seahawks, 7-4. The Patriots, 9-2. The Falcons had 7-4 now. They've turned things around, gotten better. The Vikings 9-2. It's. I mean, look, though, that's the. I mean, in terms of teams with 3 or less losses, that's probably that's a good year so far right now. In terms of teams with 3 or less losses, this might be one of the better years in recent memory. Now, there's a flip side to this, okay? That pretty much tells you why, this has been such a bad year in the NFL. Because what these teams are doing is they're beating down on a lot of bad teams. That's really, if you look at it, and we talked about at the beginning of the season how difficult the league was in terms of quality of playing, but also in terms of having a hard time deciphering some of these teams. Well, eventually the cream, rises to the top. And it did. But a lot of these teams did beat up on some bad teams. And I think what you see is, people talk about parity. There is no parity in this game. There is none. Some of these teams are just bad. They're just bad. Injuries, all these other things have made them bad, but they're bad. And when you see this many teams at 9-2, you got 10-1, you have 3 teams at 9-2. You have 3 teams at 9-2. You have a team at 10-1. You have a couple teams at 8-3. 3 teams at 8-3. When you see that kind of stuff, that means that the rest of the league is just bad. Because you look at the last couple years, you get to this week and you usually see a bunch of teams kind of in, and there's still a lot of teams in it. But a lot of these teams are in it maybe because maybe because of one spot, and all these teams are 6-5, 5-6, 4 and whatever. It's a little bit different than the last couple years. A little bit different. So, I mean, look, the bottom line is, if you're somebody that just wanted this league to get better and you wanted something to hang on to over the last few weeks of the season, you got something here. You do have storylines now. You do have enough teams that distance themselves from the pack to make things interesting at the top of the respective conferences. You have a few playoff races in play. So you have that. So, I mean, look, is it as great a season right now as you've seen? No. It's still a rough season, and it's still kind of like looking for any reason to kind of grasp on the hope that things are going to be okay, be decent this year. But at least there are some reasons to watch. There are some reasons to hope that we'll get some decent, compelling storylines, some decent, compelling moments here as we head down the stretch and into the playoffs, into the Super Bowl. And you do have, and as I always like to say, we like to put that tier. That's why I always say the Brian tier, if you will, of how to value these teams. After week 12, I think the Eagles have solidified. As I said last week, the Eagles have already solidified, but they further certified themselves. They are an elite team in this league. I think now we truthfully have to put the Steelers and the Patriots on that elite level, even though they don't always look elite, even though it might be by default you do. They're both 9-2. Even though they have their issues on defense, they found ways to still win games. They found ways to make just enough stops. You have to put them on that elite level, I think. And I also think at this particular point, you have to put the Vikings on that elite level, and not just being a good team. They're good enough to be on that level with the Patriots, the Steelers, and the Eagles. And the Eagles are a little bit above all of them, but they're on that same level as teams that can win the Super Bowl. The Vikings defense has been phenomenal, and Case Keenum has been a revelation. He has not gotten talked about enough. He has been solid at that position all year round, and they got the running game with Latavius Murray. If they stay healthy, the Vikings, with their defense, if Keenum can continue at the pace he's at, and Murray can continue to run the ball effectively, the Vikings are going to be a very, very tough out. And they are a team that could maybe beat the Eagles. They really are. They match up very well with the Eagles. I mean, that would be a tough game to call, Eagles-Vikings. That'd be a very good game to call. Tough game to call. So, I think those are your 4 teams on that elite level. And then the next tier, you have the teams that are going to be competing. They are contenders, and they could also put themselves on that elite level, and be more than just top teams, contending teams. The Falcons have put themselves back there. They've handled business. They've turned things around. They look very good against the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers can play tough, and they did a very good job. They took a big step forward here. Very good performance there. They got to stay healthy. If they keep getting performances out of Ryan and Jones, they're 2 big guys. They'll be fine. You got to like where they're at. You got to like where the Panthers are at. They've really solidified themselves. They are very much in the mix. You know what their defense can bring, and if Cam Newton and the offense is on, then they're even tougher to stop. The Seahawks you put up there as well, not just based on their past, but what they can still do. Their defense, they're not as consistent as they once were, but when they're on their game, which they've been of late, their defense is solid. We know that, and their offense does just enough. You got to put the Seahawks on that level. Both the Rams and the Saints played a great game. It was one of the more entertaining games of the week. You got to put them both on that level. The Rams have really proved a lot. Their defense has gotten a lot better. And just like Case Keenum, Jared Goff is getting no discussion at all this year. And he has been phenomenal. And the Saints, we know what they've done. They've improved a lot on defense to match their offense. That means that, they're going to win a lot of games, and they are. So you put the Saints and the Rams both on that level of play as far as top contending teams go. So, you got those teams up there. And then I also put the Jaguars up there. I really do. I know they lost, and look, and Doug Marrone took responsibility, and rightfully so. He blew that game. He made some big mistakes down the stretch. He blew that game. But the Jaguars, they do a lot on defense, and Gabbert's had a pretty good year. And, they've gotten a lot out of him, and they got more out of the offense than they probably would have thought. And if they can keep doing that, then, they could. Do I think that do I think they have a chance to be an elite team? No, but I think they're obviously a contending team. They're obviously in a position here to win the division. But nonetheless, I think you have to put them as a top contending team at this point. They're 7-4. They've won. They've done enough to be put on that level. So those are your teams I think are contenders and top teams to watch here. And some of them could become elite teams, and some of them probably don't have enough to become elite, but they'll at least be contenders. Outside of that, you got those teams that are right there. They're on borderline. They're kind of, you're not sure you're not really sure. They're still in the mix. That's why I like to classify them as in the mix. Some might be on the outside looking in. Some might be still relatively in position, but you're still not sure what to make of them. I think Tennessee, you definitely put in that conversation. They're 7-4. They're tied with the Jaguars, but they've had some weeks where you look at them and go, maybe they can do a lot. And then there's some weeks you look at them and go, how are they 7-4? So, I think you put the Titans in that conversation. The Bills have really changed their gears the last couple weeks. They beat the Chiefs, and really, and look, the thing I like about the Bills in that game against the Chiefs, forget about the offense settling down and getting enough out of it with Tyrod Taylor. And look, look, they made a big mistake in benching him. You don't have anything better than Tyrod Taylor. You go to war with Tyrod Taylor. You can't. Tyrod Taylor is the reason why you got off to such a good start. Why you would change him, I don't know. You don't have anything better on that bench. As long as he's healthy, there's no reason he should be benched. He proved that this week. He's not great, but he's going to do better than anything else you got. But, the most impressive thing about what the Bills have done is their defense has come back into form. Because that's really the reason why they went on that losing slide, was the fact that their defense was atrocious. They were averaging, 48 points a game or whatever it was for that few weeks. That's really the reason they struggled. But they got a big win against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, which is just shocking. And the Chiefs have lost 2 games at home. And the Chiefs, you put in the mix category, and that's a true. Now look, the Chiefs are still in a position to win the division, but the Chargers are right there at 5 and 6. I'm not going to put the Chargers in the mix yet because I just don't believe that they really should be in the mix, even though mathematically they are, because the Chiefs are just so much better. I mean, I cannot believe that the Chiefs are even in this position right now. With the way that they started this season, it's like, what is going on? We know that they kind of like to go into these mid-season slides, but boy, they have just fallen apart. Their offense cannot score at all. Andy Reid has to answer on every single press conference now that Alex Smith is his starter, which I think is atrocious. Alex Smith is fine. The big problem for the Chiefs has been that they're not. Look, it's never going to be about the passing game with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's about the running game. They score points off their running game. If they run into another defense, a defense that's good and shuts them down in the running game, they are going to have trouble scoring. Alex Smith cannot throw the ball over 40 times. He cannot throw the ball over 40 times. He can't. I'm sorry, he can't. He's not that kind of quarterback. Alex Smith is a good quarterback. But he's one of those quarterbacks that you have to use a certain way. He's one of those quarterbacks that can only I mean, look, folks, sometimes you have to play to player's strength. Sometimes you get a superstar player like an Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes you get a player that's good, but you have to put him in certain situations to maximize his value. Alex Smith is one of those guys. You have to prepare. You use him in the ways that benefit, that put him in the best situation to help your team win. You put Alex Smith in the best situations to help your team win, and having him throw over 40 times is not helping your team win. And that's not a knock on Alex. Some quarterbacks are just like that. The Chiefs don't have anybody else that's better than Alex Smith. It's a Tyrod Taylor situation. Only Tyrod Taylor's nowhere as good as Alex Smith. Alex Smith won a lot of games. He got the 49ers to the NFC Championship game. Alex Smith's a good quarterback. You just have to use them right. The Chiefs have to get their running game going. They get the running game going, and they perform on defense like they're supposed to. They'll win games. Simple as that. They're still in the mix. A couple weeks ago, I remember 6-7 weeks ago, I said they're the only elite team in the NFL. Boy, has things changed. Boy, have things changed. But obviously, the Chiefs are very much in the mix. I think the Raiders. I know people are going to say this is weird. Like, oh, well, you just said that the Chargers are not in the mix, even though they have the same record as the Raiders. I trust the Raiders more because we saw what the Raiders did last year. All right, the Chargers, I just don't trust. The Raiders are a team that went into the season as a potential Super Bowl team. We saw what they did last year. As long as Derek Carr is healthy, I can believe in them. And I think if the Chiefs do not right this ship, these next 2 weeks are very, very big for the Chiefs and the Raiders. If the Raiders can win these next 2 games, okay, and the Chiefs continue to struggle, I think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs. Now, that might seem obvious, but I think that it would crush the Chiefs if they continue on this slide. The Chiefs have to go on a little bit of a streak here, or I think they're done. I don't think there'll be any wild card. I don't think anything like that. I think they'll be out of the playoffs. I really, really do. I really think that they have to right this ship starting this week. This is not something that they can just keep allowing to get by with. They cannot just keep assuming that everybody behind them is going to keep losing. The Raiders are gaining. The Chargers are right there. Things are very interesting in the AFC West. And I didn't think I think we all thought it'd be close, but we didn't think it'd be close after week 4. When the Chiefs were just dominant in terms of what they were doing. So, very disappointing are the Kansas City Chiefs. And Raiders are right there. Raiders are right there. We'll see what happens. These next 2 weeks are big. Because I think if the Raiders have a good 2 weeks here and the Chiefs don't, I think this is over. And even though the Raiders might only be up a game on the Chiefs if that were to happen, I think it'll be over. I really do. I think that would crush the Chiefs. I think their confidence would be shot. I really do. I don't care how mentally tough people think they are. You can only take so much. And so far, their mental toughness hasn't really allowed them to right this ship. So those teams are still in the mix in my mind. And I guess you can say the Raiders theoretically are, but I don't know if I buy them. Every week it's something different with them. You know, some weeks the offense struggles, some weeks the defense struggles. I'll put them up there, but I think they're at the last team on that level. I think the Packers are done. I think losing that game to the Steelers was a crush. They played really good on Sunday Night Football, but I think that was a crusher. I really do. I think the Texans are done. I think the Cardinals are done despite their record. Even though they beat the Jaguars, they needed a lot of help. The Jaguars pretty much had to blow it for them to win. I think obviously the Broncos are out. Obviously the 49ers are out. Obviously the Bears are out. The Jets are out. The Dolphins are out. The Colts are out. The Bengals are out. And the Browns are out. And the Buccaneers are out. So the Redskins and the Cowboys, I think, are hanging on by a thread. I think they're one loss away from this. That they can't afford a loss at this point. They just can't. Not with the way the NFC South is right now. When you got three teams at eight wins already, can't have. I mean, they can't allow for many more loss. Actually, they can't allow for any more losses. And I have the Chargers. I think the Chargers are out of it. Again, everybody's gonna go, well, wait a minute. They're 5-6. The Raiders are 5-6. How can you say that? I just don't. I'm saying that not because of what the record says, but because of the fact that I don't have any confidence in them, like I do the Raiders. The Raiders, I've seen them have success. The Chargers, I've seen them blow a lot of opportunities. If the Chargers come out and have a good couple weeks here, then maybe I'll obviously change my tune. But right now, I'm not gonna. I think they're out of it. And I think the Giants are clearly out of it. We'll talk about them in a minute. And I think the Lions are out of it. I think that loss to the Vikings finished them off. I know 6-5, that's not bad, but they need a lot of help to get back in the mix. And I just don't like what I've seen. You know, it seems. I mean, in terms of performance, they haven't been bad. They've certainly done enough to win games, but they just haven't managed to win games. So, you know, they've kind of been that tough luck team where they're in a lot of games and they just don't win them. And at this point, 6-5, I don't think it's going to do. Again, you got to look at the rest of the conference. The NFC South is dominating right now. They got teams with 8 wins already. And they just keep winning games. Not enough spots. So I think the Lions are out of it. So a week of solidifying position, a week of some devastating losses that, you know, really just killed some teams' chances. In the case of the Cowboys, they just got themselves destroyed by the Chargers. The Packers and the Steelers, Bills and Chiefs. Trying to think of the other game. Saints Rams, but that one, both teams are probably going to make it. So Jaguars Cardinals. So some devastating losses, some position solidifying. A very impactful week in the NFL that really got further clarity to the playoff picture, which Week 12 usually does, Thanksgiving week. So as far as our picks go, again, we had a supersized edition of the NFL picks. We did, 9 games? We did the 3 Thanksgiving, and then we did the pick 6 from the normal weekend games. I'm going to pull this up right here. See how we did. For Week 12, we had Vikings over Lions. That was a win. Cowboys over Chargers. That was a loss. Redskins over Giants, a win. Steelers over Packers, a win. Saints over Rams. That was a loss. Big win for the Rams there. Raiders over Broncos. That was a win. Chiefs over Bills. That was a loss. Panthers over Jets. That was a win. Falcons over Bucks. That was a win. So for our supersized Week 12 Thanksgiving edition, we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 6-3. What's not bad? It's not bad. So a 6-3 record for Week 12, and now we look ahead to Week 13, and now we're in that last quadrant of the season now. Okay, we're in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I know it's unequal because, normally you have, 4-week intervals. But as you head towards, as you head towards the end of the season, week 17, you got 5 weeks at the end of the season, the stretch run, but 1 week off of the usual 4-week interval. And so, we had, again, week 13 now starts that really the stretch run, the end of the season. And, now it's all about cementing position, clinching, and seeding, and this really improving your position if you're in it, and that's what you want to be. If you're that's what this, if you're in a position, if you're in a playoff spot right now, that's exactly where you want to be. You just want to worry about solidifying your position. If you're not, then you want to try to get in position and clinch as fast as you can. That's what you want to do. So, some very, very big games this weekend, especially now, like I said, that the playoff picture has become more clear over the last couple of weeks. Some big, big games. Let's start off with the Sunday night game, which I think is a huge game, between the 10-1 Eagles and the 7-4 Seahawks from Seattle, 8:30 p.m. Eastern at NBC. Eagles get a test. The Eagles have been good on the road. They're 4-1. Seattle is usually dominant at home, but this year only 3-2. So this is a test for the Eagles, but it's also a test for Seattle to prove they can beat a team that they might have to go through. Well, more than likely, they'll definitely have to go through to get to the Super Bowl, you'd think. So a game between two really, really good teams. Well, a game between an elite team and a team that's very much in the mix and is very much a contending team. I think the key is because the Eagles are going to be able to match the Seahawks in terms of on the defensive end. It's whether Seattle can score enough to keep up with Philly, and I don't think they can. Their offense has always been a rather inconsistent performer. So, with that in mind, I'm going to take the Eagles over the Seahawks, despite the fact that, plus I just think the Eagles are better. But despite the fact they're in Seattle, I like the Eagles over the Seahawks in that Sunday night game, which I think is going to be a good game. So next up we have, let's see here, 4:25 p.m. Eastern on Fox from New Orleans. The 8-3 Panthers at the 8-3 Saints. We keep talking about the NFC South and how good it is. And this is a big game. This is a very, very, very big game because the winner of this game will be in first place in the NFC South on their own. And then, depending on what Atlanta does, the loser, could be tied for second. So, very, very big game. Saints always very good at home. 4-1 this year at home. Panthers have been good on the road. They're 5-1. So it really just depends on, really what something's going to give here. The Saints defense has been much better this year. It's going to have to be better than just better in this game. It's going to have to try to be as elite as it can possibly be to hold down the Panthers, because offensively, I don't think they're going to have an issue with the Saints. They can have issues at times, but I don't think they'll have an issue with anything the Saints throw at them. So, and look, the Panthers is going to have to do what they always do. Look to contain on offense, especially against good offensive teams. I'm going to be honest with you. I want to pick the Saints. I do, especially coming off a loss. But I'm leaning towards the Panthers in this. So, Panthers over Saints for me in that one. And really, that's more of a gut instinct. Because again, I think it's a fairly even kind of game. I think New Orleans only favored by 4. It should be a very close game. It could go either way, but I'm really just going for gut. I'm leaning towards the Panthers because, again, the Saints are coming off a loss. You like think they'd come away with a win. I don't know. I just like the way the Panthers are playing, probably a little bit more than the Saints at this point. All right, we have what game I want to do here. There are a couple good games here, but let's go to Buffalo for the 1:00 p.m. Eastern game between the 9-2 Patriots and the 6-5 Bills. They'll be at the 6-5 Bills. Buffalo has turned it around the last couple of weeks. Their defense has come back alive. Offensively, they're never going to be anything special. That's where I think they lose this game, because I think defensively they are going to hold the Patriots down. Obviously, New England does not concern themselves with giving up a lot on defense. They will let you have their points, but they know they can outscore you even when you get your points. And against a team like the Bills, where offensively they struggle even when they're allowed to have their way. Okay, even when Buffalo is given opportunities, they still struggle on offense. With that in mind, I think you have to pick the Patriots here, even though it would surprise you if the Bills somehow pulled off a shock at home. No, it wouldn't, because they have a very good playoff caliber defense. But the problem is offensively, they struggle even when they're being given gifts. So with that, I'm just going to pick the Patriots because I think that's crucial. 1:00 p.m. Eastern game on Fox. The 9-2 Vikings at the 7-4 Falcons. 3-2 at home out of the Falcons this year. They've struggled at home, which has been odd for them. Vikings have done very well on the road. They're 4-1. This figures to be a close game. The Falcons have kind of got back on track the last couple of weeks. They've been much better on both sides of the football. Can Julio Jones, because I think a lot of this rests on Julio Jones. Can Matt Ryan and Julio Jones make their usual significant impact on this game with the Vikings defense? If they can't, I really don't think the Falcons can win this game. The Vikings defense has been on a roll. Case Keenum's been great. Latavius Murray's been great. If the Falcons cannot find opportunities between Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, their two biggest playmakers, and if Coleman can't get out of the gate running the ball, I think that's going to be crucial too. They're going to need to run the ball. Then I don't think the Falcons win this game. They need to put up points on the board against a good defense, and that's very hard to do. And they have the playmakers to do it, but the problem with Atlanta is they're not always consistent in doing it. They're not like the Patriots are or the Steelers are, where they even against a good defense, they find their opportunities, they create their opportunities, but they also find them too, and they make the most of them. Atlanta doesn't always do that. I like the Vikings over the Falcons in this particular game. So Vikings over Falcons there. I got two more to call. Let's call the Thursday game, because really whoever loses this game doesn't have a chance. And even the winner is still very much, on ice. 8:25 p.m. Eastern Thursday night game on NBC. 5-6 Redskins at the 5-6 Cowboys. The Cowboys, for some reason, have struggled at home. Redskins have struggled on the road. I think Dallas is a 1-point favorite. I honestly, this is a pick 'em, because here's the thing: the Redskins are very, very banged up. Even on their offensive line, they're banged up. The Cowboys obviously are missing Ezekiel Elliott, and since they lost Ezekiel Elliott, they have not been able to put any points on the board. Prescott has looked lost. It's obvious that it was, even though they knew that this possibility existed, it's really destroyed their offense. If Dallas ever figures out the offense about Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas win this game easily. So they have the potential to do that. But they haven't done it yet. And I don't know if they're gonna all of a sudden gonna click, over 1 week. So because of that, I'm gonna pick the Redskins, only because of the problems the Cowboys have been having. Now, just because I think it's doubtful that they can fix it in 1 week, does that mean it can't happen? It can happen, but I just think it's a very hard prospect to imagine. So Redskins over Cowboys. And then one last game to pick, and I'm going to see which one I think matches up, is probably the best one to pick. Chiefs and Jets might not be bad. Colts and Jaguars. Let's see. Giants, Raiders, Cardinals. All right. I'm trying to stay with teams with winning records or teams that are in the playoff hunt. So 1:00 p.m. Eastern game on Fox. 6-5 Lions at the 6-5 Ravens. Home game for the Ravens. Ravens are 3-2 at home. Lions 4-1 on the road. Lions actually played better on the road, which is odd. Really, again, the loser of this game probably solidifies their place on the outside looking in here. So, you know, I mentioned earlier about Baltimore. You just don't know week to week what you're going to get from the Ravens. Some weeks they have issues on offense. Some weeks they have issues on defense. You just don't know. Lions have been kind of like a tough luck loser this year. They've been in almost every game. They've lost some tough ones. You know, they're coming off a tough loss to the Vikings. I like the Lions here. As long as Stafford's okay, because he had a little bit of an issue in that Thanksgiving game where he got banged up. If he's healthy, I think the Lions will win this game. I think they have offensively. I think they have more playmakers. They've shown themselves to be a little. They're just a more consistent team. Week to week, you see what you get with the Lions. Is it always good enough? No, it's not. But at least with them, you know what you're going to get. With the Ravens, you have no idea week to week what you're going to get. So I'll go with the Lions here because I just think you just know what you're going to get with them more. Ravens could come out in that game and score 20-something points and dominate. But you just don't know. So Lions over Ravens for me. So here are your 6 picks for this week's NFL Week 13. Eagles over Seahawks, Panthers over Saints, Patriots over Bills, Vikings over Falcons, Redskins over Cowboys, and Lions over Ravens. Those are your picks for Week 13 of the NFL. Before we talk about Eli Manning, before we also talk about the fight between Talib and Crabtree, which I want to talk about. I didn't put that in the show script, but I want to talk about. I want to switch to the college basketball. Wow. College football playoff rankings. Quick. We'll jump to college football and we'll jump back to the NFL. I just want to get to them because Mike's not on yet, and I know that's something that he doesn't want to talk about. So we'll jump to that. So cover me shocked because I sat here a week ago as we looked at this week's slate of games. I didn't think there was anything worth watching this weekend. I didn't think there was. Oh, yeah, Alabama-Auburn. That was the only game. But even that game, I said, what would happen? Even if Auburn won, what did I say would happen? Alabama would probably drop to 4, and then everybody else would be cursing out the world because it would pretty much up the idea of 2 SEC teams potentially going to the playoff. But I'm shocked because the rankings came out tonight and Alabama is on the outside looking in. Now let me be careful here because I don't want to say that I don't think this is I think this is wrong because it's not. I just didn't think they would do it. I'm very happy they did it. I just didn't think they would. Number 2, Clemson's number 1. I know some people think Auburn should have been 1. I'm okay with it. Because Clemson's got a game this weekend against Miami. And if they lose that game, well then, we'll see. But like I said, I don't have an issue with the way they ranked them. Clemson at 1, Auburn at 2, Oklahoma at 3, Wisconsin at 4. Now look, Wisconsin right now I think deserves to be in that 4 spot. I think Oklahoma deserves to be in that 3 spot. Alabama being in the 5, I think is fine because look, you can't put Georgia over Alabama and you can't put Miami over Alabama. None of these teams in back of my Alabama, and let's be honest here, the only teams right now that, in my mind, have a chance to even play their way into the field are Alabama, Georgia, and Miami. I don't think Ohio State has a chance. I don't think Penn State has a chance. I don't think USC has a chance. And definitely if you're outside the top 10, you don't have a chance at this point. So what we're looking at right now here, folks, is 7 teams for 4 spots. So So, sorry, I just got distracted. My fault with having the volume up on the TV. Live podcasting, folks. So like I said, 7 teams for 4 spots. Now here's the thing. You really could probably say 6 because I think Georgia's going to have a hard time getting in the mix because you can't put Georgia ahead of Alabama. The only team in this mix that I think you can put Georgia ahead of is Miami. All right, now, unless somebody in the top 4 loses, then you can put Georgia in front of anything. The only team you can't put Georgia in front of is Alabama. I don't think you put Georgia in front of Auburn either at this point. So you can't put them in front of the SEC team, but you can put them in front of anybody else if they lose. But right now, I mean, look, am I shocked? Do I think this is wrong? No, I think this is right. I like the way it's ranked. I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine. I'm just shocked that they actually did it. I really am. I'm just shocked that they actually did it. But I think it's fair. I think it's all right. Now, here's the thing. Unless you're in one of the conference championship games this weekend, okay? You can't help yourself. You can't help yourself as far as the playoff teams go. Okay? Now, here's what you have here. Alabama can't help themselves. Georgia and Auburn are playing for the SEC on Saturday at 4 o'clock on CBS. Now, if Georgia beats Auburn, does that put Georgia in? I don't know. You would think it would have to, right? I think that's probably Georgia's only way in. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to put them over Alabama. You wouldn't be able to put them over Alabama. But that would cause some interest, wouldn't it? Because you just put Auburn. You put Auburn at 2. Okay? Let's say, for instance, Georgia beats Auburn. What do you do? Alabama beat Auburn. Auburn lost to Georgia. Alabama beat Georgia. So I don't know how you decipher that. So that would make for an interesting. I mean, I would think what they would do is Alabama would be in, Auburn would be out, and Georgia would probably just make it. That's what I think they would do. But I mean, it'd be an interesting conundrum. They got Clemson playing Miami, which again, Miami has to win that game and hope for some help because they're sitting at 7. If Clemson loses, I think they're out. I do. I think they're out. And you got Ohio State, Wisconsin. That, by the way, the Clemson-Miami game, 8 o'clock p.m. on ABC. Clemson-Miami on 8 o'clock p.m. on ABC. Ohio State, Wisconsin at 8 o'clock p.m. on Fox. I think even if Ohio State wins that game I don't think they make it. I think they're too far out at this point. So I don't think that Ohio State could somehow jump into the mix. So, you know, I look, if Wisconsin wins, I think Wisconsin without a doubt locks up a space in the playoffs. I don't think you could take it away from them. I really don't. For what they had to do in the last couple of weeks, I don't think you could take it away from them. But if Ohio State beats Wisconsin, I do not think that they end up in the top 4. Just like Miami, if Miami beats Clemson, they don't end up in the top 4 unless they get some help. And again, Georgia, Auburn, that one could cause a whole host of issues. So those are the games to really look at. I know there's a Pac-12 championship, but I don't think it figures in anything. USC, Stanford, neither one's going to make it win or lose. So Alabama cannot help themselves. They need help. They need somebody to lose in front of them. So what do I think is going to happen here? I think Clemson will beat Miami. Barely, but I think they will. I think that Ohio State might beat Wisconsin. You know what? I take that back. I don't, because I don't know what you're going to get from Bear because he's been banged up. I think Wisconsin will beat Ohio State, so I think they'll solidify their spot. And I think Auburn will beat Georgia because I think Alabama's better than Georgia, and Auburn just beat Alabama. I think Auburn will beat Georgia, which I guarantee the playoff committee is hoping they do because it saves them a lot of trouble. So I think you will have Clemson I think you'll have Auburn. And by the way, if Auburn beats Georgia, I would not be the least bit surprised if Auburn leapfrogs over Clemson for the 1 spot. They could interchange them. That could happen. But we'll see how – again, that's – so I think you'll see Clemson, Auburn. Again, they could switch spots. I think Wisconsin will jump to the 3 if they beat Ohio State. And then they'll leave Oklahoma at 4. Even though Oklahoma has TCU, but I don't think that and I think they'll beat them. So I don't worry about Oklahoma there. But I think that they'll value Wisconsin beating Ohio State or Oklahoma beating TCU. So I think they would leapfrog Wisconsin over Oklahoma. So I think coming out of this weekend, you will have Clemson, Auburn, Wisconsin, Oklahoma. If they put Alabama there after last week, and again, I didn't think that would happen, then they don't value Alabama as highly as they've done in years past. That would tell you that. Because I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think it was possible. So, and I'm glad they did it. I think they did the right thing. I really, really do. And look, if you're somebody that really enjoys chaos, if you're somebody that wants the most chaotic finish to this season, then you want Georgia to beat Auburn. Because that, I don't know what they would do. I mean, I'm guessing. What I said earlier was pure guess. I mean, I don't know what they would do. Now, I mean, would it be how chaotic? Now, again, I don't think this is possible. I think Georgia beating Auburn is possible. I don't think it's possible that this would happen. This scenario, which I'm about to mention. Can you imagine if Ohio State beats Wisconsin, Miami beats Clemson, Georgia beats Auburn? TCU is not being Oklahoma, so I'm not even going to broach that topic. But can you imagine that? How chaotic that would be? That would probably get Alabama in. No doubt. We'll see. Could be fun. Should be a fun weekend of football. But I do think, like I said, I expect Oklahoma to beat TCU. I expect Clemson to beat Miami. Barrett, I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be a good game. Wisconsin, I think, will beat Ohio State. You don't know what you're going to get with Barrett. He's banged up. I think Auburn will beat Georgia. They beat Alabama. Alabama's better. So, and I think you'll have Clemson, Auburn, Wisconsin, Oklahoma as your Final Four. It'll be a good Final Four. Should be good. Very evenly matched. I think it'll be good for the game. So, you know, last week, a week that we didn't think anything big was going to happen outside of Alabama, Auburn, ended up being interesting. But Miami losing to Pittsburgh made things interesting. So, you know, good for college football. They got some drama here as we head into the last weekend. That's what you want. You want some drama. It's good for the game. So, good for them. So we'll see how it goes. We'll talk about it. The college football playoff selection show will take place on Sunday. The top 4 teams will be revealed, and we'll see how it all ends up. We'll talk about it next week. Before I jump back to some of these football topics, more broader football topics, I want to welcome in Mike. Mike, you're in the spotlight.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Here for like 10 whole minutes. Maybe 15.
Sorry.
Because I was super late.
I know you were.
I was sitting there eating a lovely dinner. Lovely dinner. Noodle soup, and of course, Wendy's chicken nuggets.
Oh, that sounds
good. I had a very, very lavish meal of Wendy's chicken nuggets.
I thought
I was sitting there. It was a very lavish meal.
Luscious meal. Okay.
It was a luxurious meal.
Were you enjoying Kevin Owens while you were enjoying his luscious meal?
The TV show Lucifer.
Oh, that's good.
Show Lucifer. Because I wasn't watching SmackDown at the time. And you know what pops up? Incoming hangout call from Indie Spotlight with Ryan Gardner. And I said, no.
Well, I'm sorry.
I am going to sit here. Luxurious, luscious, of Wendy's chicken nuggets and chicken noodle soup with the good crackers, mind you.
Really?
We all know Ritz. Ritz is the king of crackers.
They are.
Ritz.
They are. Yes.
With the snowflake design, because we're fancy sometimes like that.
We are.
I would have been on earlier. I'm like, no. Thinking about that boring ass sport football. and you know what they say? The most luxurious meals have to come out in the most luxurious ways. My time. I took my time.
Just sounds like an epic journey.
Sprayed some lovely tinted air fresheners, because you know what, Brian? It's the season, darn it.
Yes, it is.
It's the holiday season.
It is.
And the
indeed.
smell of pine, Brian, should be in the air, darn it.
It should.
Unless you're allergic to pine, in which case I understand. It's fine. You probably enjoy the scent of sugar cookies.
Oh, that's good.
Pie. Something spirited, something holiday like. Made sure the area was pine scented, and then I came on, and you know what? And do you know what I earned for my trouble, my waiting? You talking about the college football playoff that doesn't matter is going to win, and we all know it.
Who? Who's going to win?
Alabama going to win.
They're not even in the top four.
Alabama going to win.
No.
Oh, who's the SEC team that's in the top four?
Auburn.
All right, my bad. We all know, Brian, that Auburn is going to win. Unless, in which case, you probably.
They very well could.
You fucking go bonkers over it anyway. But you know what? You know what, Brian?
Yes.
I intentionally came on late to avoid this conversation.
Well, we're pretty much done with the conversation, so you did avoid it for the most part.
So you know what? You can go ahead. You talk about this terrible sport known as football. God awful.
Well, we're
not going to sit here.
Okay.
And I'm going to hour to talk. I spent the last describing miraculous chicken nuggets from Wendy's. God damn it!
Oh,
Wendy's.
God. Yes, Wendy's.
We don't do that McDonald's shit right now. Wendy's. So all I'm saying is, finish talking about that god awful sport, the NFL. We're going to catch up on what Kevin Owens did on SmackDown. Spoiler alert: he beat Randy Orton. Thanks a lot.
Well, we're going to finish the NFL again. We went NFL, went to college football, we're back to NFL because there are a couple NFL things to talk about. First of all, I didn't talk about during the game discussion, but the fight between Talib and Crabtree in the Raider-Bronco game. Both guys had a punishment passed down today of 2 games. It was cut to 1 game tonight because I guess they had the appeal process quick tonight. Which I think is absurd. They got cut 1 game for that fight. If you saw that fight, you know that 2 games was. But again, that's how it works. Players union and all that. First of all, that the league was probably just up in arms over that because with everything that's gone on this season, from the controversies and all the other things that have been going on, they did not want that. That was picked up on every news outlet. It did not look good. But here's the thing, folks, okay? At this point, does it even matter PR-wise? It's already in the NFL PR-wise is already in such a deep hole that you can't get any worse. You can't get any worse. So I saw this. Well, the league didn't want this to happen. It puts them in a bad light. This made things worse. The league is already in a bad light. The league is already at its worst. It didn't need this. Didn't need this to happen. No, but stuff like this happens. Look, this stuff happening is not making things worse for them. It's just continuing the endless parade of of really just make it. This is the most miserable year they've ever had. And it's, me and Mike have talked about it for years. They felt invincible. They felt like this could never happen, that everything would fall apart. Their ratings, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I was looking at the report this afternoon. One of our listeners sent one to me, which I thank you for that. I don't know why I did with the email, but their numbers on Thanksgiving were bad. All 3 games. And here's the thing, folks. Okay, Lions game, you could see. Redskins, Giants at night was an abysmal game, so you can understand. But the Cowboys on Thanksgiving getting a bad number, being down 10%. That, I mean, again, this is it's all coming apart all at once. And there's a lot of reasons for it, and we talked about them ad nauseum over the entire season. There's a lot of reasons for this. But please don't act like this Talib Crabtree thing was the straw that broke the camel's back. All right, the straw that broke the camel's back happened in the beginning of the season when people started. Look, everything just got out of hand. Everything just got out of hand for one reason or another. It wasn't any one thing. It was the collection of things that broke the camel's back. It wasn't any one thing. Different fans quit for different reasons. That's just what happened. Is this an embarrassment to the league? Yeah, but boy, this league's been embarrassing itself for the better part of a decade. So don't act like this is something new. Okay, it was bad. It looked bad, yes, but the league was already in a hole anyway. So whatever. And I think it's absurd that this ban got cut to 1 game, but that I knew it was going to happen because it's the union. That's what they do. Right or wrong, that's what they do. So they get out with 1 game for an ugly fight, and that's just the way it goes. So I just want to mention that really quickly. Now on to the story of the day. What's going on in New York with Eli Manning. Now, if you've been following the Giants, you know how bad of a year this has been. From a team that, could be a potential Super Bowl team to a team that showed that their offensive line was even worse than last year, that fell completely off the rails and went from a team that just had a bad offensive line to just a bad team, injury depleted, just bad all around. Well, we're going into week 13. Now, once you get to this part of if you're a team that was expected to do things, you get to this part of the season, you might start to consider benching your quarterback and starting a young quarterback, get him experience. And normally that's not a big deal. But when you have a 2-time Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl winning quarterback in Eli Manning, who is part of NFL royalty, okay, when your other options at quarterback are Geno Smith, who got ran out of the New York Jets and who has shown nothing in many, many opportunities at quarterback, and what's his name? Derek Webb, I think his name is, who is a 5th-round draft pick that realistically people said his ceiling was being essentially a backup quarterback. When those are your options, okay, and you have your star 2-time Super Bowl MVP quarterback who has a 210-game consecutive starting streak, second only to Brett Favre. When you have this going for you, when you have all this in your situation to be dealt with, okay, when you take this all into account, it's a very difficult decision on the surface. Okay? Because you're thinking, because I'm going to take this from a different perspective than a lot of people. The first thing I'm going to always think about, because if I'm thinking about it just from the standpoint of, well, we should make a change at quarterback because we should get another quarterback a look, see what he's got. The 2 guys that you have, I've always said this. You don't just start a quarterback for the sake of starting a quarterback. Okay? If you have a better option on the bench, you start them. If you don't, you don't. Okay? If you have a reason to start somebody, you start them. So if you're in a situation like this and you have a young quarterback, like let's go back in time to Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. Okay? Let's say Brett Favre's Green Bay Packers were 2-9. And, you know, consecutive start streak and all that stuff. And you have Aaron Rodgers in there, who everybody was high on. Everybody knew he was going to be something special. You're 2-9. Brett Favre, you know, Brett Favre's getting up there in age. You have a conversation with Brett. You say, hey, Brett, you know what? Look, we need to see what the kid has. We need to see if this guy's the real deal. We need to see what's going on here. We're not going anywhere this year. We also want to run the risk of you getting hurt. We want to bench you. We want to start Aaron on Sunday. Now, if you're a fan of Brett Favre, you're thinking, no, you can't do that. You can't end that consecutive streak. Oh, no, you can't do that. But if you're not a fan of Brett Favre and you're just a fan of the Packers, you're thinking to yourself, you know what, Brett? The record's impressive, but you know what? We're not going anywhere. You might be retiring at the end of the year. We need to do something here. We need to see what Aaron Rodgers has got. And you would be valid in that point of view because Aaron Rodgers is a guy that had a very high ceiling, and it's a guy that people believed would be a star. And look where we are now. Contrast that with this Eli Manning Giants situation. You're not benching Eli Manning for Aaron Rodgers. You're benching Eli Manning for Geno Smith. You're benching Eli Manning for a journeyman quarterback who, even when he was in the draft, that everybody said that his ceiling was very, very, very limited. You're benching Eli Manning potentially for Derek Webb, a fifth-round draft pick who, again, ceiling very, very limited. When you take that into account, benching Eli Manning is one of the most ridiculous things you could possibly do as a franchise. Now, you could make the argument, and again, you can take it from this perspective, and I can understand it. Well, I don't want Eli Manning to get hurt. We have a bad offensive line. We have this. You've had a bad offensive line all year. You've had a bad offensive line last season. Okay, your bad offensive line is going to be there no matter what. Okay, you've been bad for this whole entire season. You've been out of it since essentially week 6. If you're worried about his safety, you would have benched him then. So that's stupid. That's not a reason. Now, look, Eli took the classy road here. He was asked if he wanted to continue his starting streak. He could start and then he could be benched. Eli said, no, I'm not going to do that because if I can't be in the game the whole entire game and be there at the end to help us get a win, I don't want to play. That's a classy way to handle it. He's obviously upset. He looked devastated. He doesn't like this, but he's going to go along with it because it's what he said is best for the organization. But is it best for the organization? Is Geno Smith or Derek Webb going to save the organization? Are they starting next year? No. Eli Manning's probably going to be the starter next year unless something drastic happens. Unless they somehow keep Ben McAdoo there, which would be completely ridiculous. And again, you know, the Giants are such a well-run organization, but they're getting destroyed for this, and they should. First of all, Ben McAdoo should have been fired already. Jerry Reese should have been fired already. The fact that those two are still standing there and Eli Manning's going to be sitting on the bench is one of the most disgusting things I've seen in sports. From a competitive standpoint. Super Bowl hero, 2-time Super Bowl hero, a guy that's played 210 straight games for your franchise, going to be benched for two quarterbacks that really are not going to factor into anything. It's ridiculous. And whoever came up with the idea has a screw loose. At least Eli Manning puts butts in the seats. At least when you trot him out there, people are interested in seeing him. I mean, you got a fan base that had lofty expectations for this season, that is expecting a lot from the season and got derailed very, very quickly. But they were hanging on, and they were there with you. And this is how you award them? This is a gigantic middle finger to the fan base. It's a gigantic middle finger to Eli Manning. It's a horrible decision when you take everything into account, and they should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing to Eli Manning in this situation, and to their fan base in this situation. They just should be ashamed of themselves, and it's already blown up in their face. And if this is the way Eli Manning's New York Giant career ends, and that's a shame. It's a shame. And I give a lot of credit to Eli Manning for the classy way he handled this. I give a lot of credit to his father, Archie Manning, for the classy way he handled this. I mean, everybody else is so upset by it. The way he handled it, God bless him, he was classy about it. But, boy, he had every right not to be. Because they have made him the fall guy. Ben McAdoo and this organization has made him the fall guy all season long when he is nothing. He has not even close to being the guy that's responsible for the travesty that is this team. And they're doing it again. Oh, wow, we're going to bench him. Why bench him? What did he do? You're benching him while you're keeping that pathetic excuse for a head coach on the sideline. That's an insult. That's an insult. A head coach that sat there had the nerve to sit there. And I know you have to protect your team and, whatever. But at some point, you have to come out and call them out for lack of effort. The same head coach that sat there for 3 weeks on end when you saw a team that wasn't trying, when you saw a team that was giving up on plays. Clear as day, he stood up there and said, I have to look at the film. And again, I know you have to protect, you want to keep things in house, but at some point you have to go up there and say, you know what? Yeah, we did stop trying. I have a lot to address with my team behind closed doors. Say it. Have some guts and be a leader, be a head coach, because sometimes you do have to go public with something and try to reach your team, because clearly your approach of looking at the film and keeping your team's confidence wasn't doing a damn thing for the previous 2 weeks. So try something different and come out there and say, yes, guys, yes. Go to the media and say, yes, you're right. Things have gotten out of hand, and there is a lack of effort here, and it will be addressed. You don't have to point fingers. You don't have to say a damn word about drawing out a specific name. Just come out there and say, in general, I'm not happy with my team performance. I do see a lack of effort in spots that I have to address for my team. That's all you have to say. But sitting up there and playing everybody for a fool and acting like a jackass and sitting there saying, well, I got to look at the film, when everybody clear as day has already seen the film, including yourself, because you're sitting there on the sideline, is being a poor excuse for a coach. I would have fired him on the spot for that. This whole thing is bad, but you add insult to injury by keeping him on the sidelines when you're 2-9 and you're sitting your 2-time Super Bowl MVP. They should be ashamed of themselves for this. Horrible, horrible situation. So it'll make for an interesting Sunday storyline for a team that's 2-9. And I'll tell you something, boy. When this team plays at home the rest of the way, boy, are they gonna hear it. This is gonna get really, really ugly for the Giants. Really, really ugly. And it should, and they deserve it. They deserve it. So, should be interesting. All right, so there was my big rant. That's it for the football. Again, I just want to talk about those two situations. I want to do them on their own outside the game discussion because I thought they deserved to be topics on their own. So we're done with that. Before I get to basketball, there really isn't anything big that happened. And Mike, you're going to jump in?
You know what? I just might.
Go ahead.
Because our good friend Chris was very upset on Facebook today. It was because Chris was not having luxurious chicken nuggets from Wendy's.
I'm sure that's it.
As it was understandable, but he was very mad at Mr. Coach McAdoo. I'm like, NBA great McAdoo do to you? Turns out this is a white guy with a terrible mustache. NBA legend Bob McAdoo.
Oh my God.
Hall of Famer and well deserved.
I never even thought of
that.
that.
Totally wrong. By the way.
Oh my God.
Well, I heard this guy, and I'm like, well, I must look it up. McAdoo. Bench Manning. Look, we all know the Giants have had a poor season, but most experts, non-experts, give a shit about football, chalk this up to a poor offensive line, subpar running backs, fairly shitty defense. Excuse me. And the fact they have as many wins as they do on the season too is mostly because of Eli Manning. Am I saying something wrong here?
No, you're not.
Also, we can also throw lackluster coaching in there because clearly this guy does not know what the fuck he's doing. But that's for the moment. Now, I am not an expert on football. The sport is than a McNugget. Certainly, they are not at the level and their chicken nuggets. Wendy's has the spicy chicken nugget out. Now, this is not that level. As we're going to go with Geno Smith, NFL journeyman. I remember Geno Smith as the answer. He was the answer for the New York Jets. He was their quarterback of the future, the New York Jets. Unfortunately, somebody from the Giants was not watching across town. Smith bombed out as the Jets quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
A better offensive line than the Giants do. It's rather bad. It's rather bad. So of course, when he's saying that we're going to put together an offense, this is Coach McAdoo, not NBA legend McAdoo. He would never make this choice. Going to put together an offensive scheme to give Geno Smith the best chance of winning. Why? Put together an offensive scheme that would give Geno the best. I don't know how to tell this guy this, but the best offensive scheme that would give Geno Smith the best chance of winning is to just play Eli Manning.
Right.
Manning, the bowl-winning quarterback of the New York Giants. He is, of course, MVP, or at least he is a former Super Bowl MVP, if I remember correctly. Pro Bowl quarterback. The game, you would say. From his start, if I remember correctly in the draft, where he said, I didn't want to go anywhere but New York, forcing the team that drafted him to trade his ass to New York City trade his ass to New Jersey because, let's face it, Giants, Stark City, now is it? That's hilarious. The Giants think they're they're a New York team. They're so funny. And much like the New York Jets, they think they're a New York team too.
Wow, you're in rare form tonight. Oh my God.
Oh, the New York Jets don't count. Anyways, Eli Manning will not give them the best chance of winning against whatever team they're playing against. Tom Coughlin said, do you know who we need against Tom Brady here in the Super Bowl? Geno Smith. Tom Coughlin would have been more deservedly fired this summer. Because let's face it, Tom Coughlin did not deserve to be fired. I'm under the understanding that he was fired and did not leave under his own choice. Or incorrect. Ask Chris this, because Chris would have knowledge of the Giants. But I digress. Tom Coughlin, a 2-time Super Bowl winning coach. Front office that does not want to spend the money despite being the quote New York Giant quote, New York unquote Giants, because they're really from New Jersey. Oh, those scrubs. But office that doesn't want to spend money, and with a head coach that let's call this spade incompetent. Is it any wonder that Eli Manning couldn't manage here? I don't know if Tom Brady could have managed more than 2 wins with this team. Just kidding. Tom Brady would have gotten them to the Super Bowl. But that's just Tom Brady, and he would have had Bill Belichick with him. The Kraft family would actually spend money to give a decent football team to Tom Brady. So Tom Brady, in fact, would not be in this situation. Take that back. Aaron Rodgers win more than 2 games? Would Cam Newton? Who cares about Cam Newton? No, Cam Newton doesn't count. Could Tim Tebow get this team to 6 wins? Tebow's miraculous 4th quarter powers that he did not believe in. The answer is no, of course. Not even St. Tim could. Doing this to Eli Manning is an embarrassment, an awful moment. It is like when you go to a drive-thru and you're like, I prefer chicken nuggets over Wendy's. That is an embarrassment and a line that you just don't cross.
You really have a one-track mind tonight.
I'm trying to keep with the theme, Brian. Shut your whore mouth. Trying to keep with the theme, Brian.
Sorry, go ahead.
You accepted this time. With Geno Smith, who was certainly the answer for a losing season in their same building rivals, the New Jersey Jets.
Yes.
It's just an embarrassment. It's just an embarrassment. It's like saying, hey guys, we just want to lose the rest of our games. Yay! I can do an impression. How was it? It doesn't matter because Coach McAdoo's not going to have a job. Let's face it, this move is designed to keep the general manager and Coach McAdoo their jobs. It's going to do the exact opposite of that. They're both on the chopping block. I'll be surprised if these guys are even brought back for 1 more year. So it's just saying, like, fuck it. We know we're getting fired, so we're taking most of this team down with us.
Should have been fired already.
And you know what? I agree, because the moment they made this move, the moment they said, "Hey, we prefer store-bought chicken nuggets, not the good kind," to Wendy's delicious chicken nuggets with the best honey mustard any fast food restaurant could offer, and you know that part is true. You know that part is a God's honest fact. Is the best honey mustard. Much like that, Eli Manning is the best option they had. The moment they said, no, we're going to go Geno Smith, the general manager should have been like, no, we're going to go with the assistant coach. He gives us a better chance than you. You're fired by me. And then that general manager should have been like, hey. You know what he wants, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
Do you? Do you know what the general manager would say after that in that situation?
Well,
you know what he wants? I want a competent offensive line and a half decent running back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some delicious Wendy's chicken nuggets.
Of course. Got to throw in the chicken nuggets.
With the best goddamn honey mustard any fast food company has to offer.
Oh my god. Oh, this is the best product placement episode that we ever had.
It is also the most competent NFL analysis I've ever given.
It really is. Well, this you know, like I said, it's just a horrible thing to do, and it makes no sense. I could understand it more if they had a good young quarterback there waiting in the wings, like Aaron Rodgers was for Brett Favre. If they had somebody like that, I could buy into it a little bit. Like, okay, we have to spend the rest of the season seeing what we have. You don't have that. You don't have it. So why bother doing it?
They don't have much of anything, and that is the biggest problem for this team.
And really, let's just be honest here for a second, too. Even if you did have a good young quarterback, is bringing them into this situation the best thing? You don't have an offensive line. Your best players are on IR. All your best receivers are on IR. You're bringing them into a situation where they don't have any opportunity to even look good. I mean, it's just not a good idea.
It is, in fact, a terrible idea. And the problem with that is maybe, just maybe, about his actions more sooner than later.
Oh, that was hurt, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I got suspended again.
I mean, you can't really help being hurt. But there's a lot of actions that he could have evaluated before he got hurt, so, you know. But
suspended again. My bad.
No, he's hurt. He's out for the year. He's hurt.
Okay. Then that being said, then maybe the NFL, because let's face it, they're not a New York team. They're not a New York team. They're not. They're in New Jersey. But anyways, the New Jersey Giants should have evaluated the situation and be like, okay, Coach McAdoo, what do you think we'd be better with NBA legend Bob McAdoo?
Oh, jeez.
NBA Hall of Famer. He has better sense for the game of football than you do. So,
yeah.
Coach McAdoo, kindly, fuck off.
Oh, Jesus. Mike's nothing if not blunt. That's all I'll say.
Yes.
All right. We spent a lot of time on this, so you know, we'll leave it at that. But it's gonna be an interesting weekend. I'm telling you, it's gonna be very ugly for the Giants the rest of the season. Well, it's already gonna be ugly, but now they've made it worse for themselves. Their fan base is gonna be just. It's good. Their fan base is gonna be all over them the rest of the season, and rightfully so. So. And look, Eli comes out of this looking like a class act, and he is a class act for the most part. But I mean, look, you can argue with the way he handled his draft years ago, but that was a long time ago, and I don't know how much that was him and how much that was other people. Who knows? But Eli's handling this the right way. His father's handling this the right way. It's unfortunate it has to happen. It shouldn't happen. So, well, let's jump to college basketball. And as I said, it was a big. Well, before I get to college basketball, as I was saying before Mike jump in, there really wasn't anything big in baseball over the last week. The winter meetings are coming up next week. There isn't anything big news-wise, so we'll leave MLB out of it for this week. Tiger Woods is coming back to competition this week. Maybe we'll talk about it next week. We'll see how he does, but right now he's just coming back. So, I mean, if he comes back and performs well, you know, it might be something to keep following. It won't be a big story. It's not a big tournament, but all it would do is put him kind of on our radar as far as a storyline to watch going forward, but we'll see. NBA-wise, there's a David Fizdale thing. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. David Fizdale getting fired from the Memphis Grizzlies, which was a terrible move. The guy's a great coach. I don't understand it. Other than the fact that it seems like he had problems with the front office, which seems to be the thing. You know, there used to be a time when, and I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of coaches have problems with the front office. All right. But when you're winning, or when you're winning championships, I should say, most of the time that keeps you around. You know, oh, well, I may not like that guy, but he's winning me championships. I don't know anymore, though. We've seen, I mean, even especially in baseball, you've seen guys have much success, win divisions, win championships, and they still get fired, or they still are allowed to leave, or they leave on their own because they can't deal with what's going on. It's kind of a different era in that regard. But yeah, it's a terrible firing. I don't think they should have done it. LeBron James seemed upset. I know he's a fan of him, and a lot of people seemed upset. I think it was a terrible fire. I think he's done a great job there. He'll get hired in a heartbeat. He's a great head coach. So I didn't like that. But other than that, there isn't anything else going on in the NBA. So really all we have left to talk about on the sports side of things is college basketball. And as is always the case in college basketball, Thanksgiving week, a lot of holiday tournaments, a lot of big stuff going on. It's usually a big week, and it was a big week. A lot of teams got tested in college basketball. Duke had a very interesting week. And they played in the PK 80 tournament, which was a great event, and they're going to do it again. It was a great event. With the only thing I wish they had done, and it was my fault because I wasn't clear on everything that was going on in this tournament. I thought eventually that both sides of the bracket would meet. They didn't. It was two separate brackets, so my bad on that. But it was a great event even still. And then with Carolina versus Michigan State, which Michigan State won, was a big win for them. Carolina's first loss since I think February of last. Since the ACC tournament. I correct me if I'm wrong. Then you had Duke, who had a very, very interesting tournament because they were down big in 3 straight games. Portland State, which they should have lost, okay? They should have lost. The officiating helped them. Let's be honest, the officiating helped them in that game. Portland State opened a lot of eyes in that game. They looked very good in that game. And they were down in the second game. And the third game, Duke against Florida. Duke just came back. I will say this too. Florida, I think, gave that game away. Florida got turnover happy. They got sloppy. They started getting away from what worked. And I'm telling you right now, folks, Florida's a Final Four team, I think. They're a very good basketball team. They are a very good basketball team. They're set up point. They got guys at every position. They're stacked. They're going to win the SEC. They're better than Kentucky. They're easily better than Kentucky. Right now, if I were ranking teams right now, okay, based on performance right now, because I think Duke's the best team, but Duke ain't playing like the best team. They ain't. They could have easily lost 3 games last, just like Arizona, but they played ranked teams. Arizona lost to 3 unranked teams. We'll talk about that in a minute. If I were to rank the teams right now in terms of performance, okay, right now, I'd rank Villanova 1, Duke 2, Florida 3, and Wichita State 4. And let me put something to you all right now about Wichita State. They're missing one of their best players. When they get him back, they're going to be on another level. Those would be my top 4 right now. They're all very good basketball teams. And I think Kansas is probably my 5 right now. They're all very good basketball teams, and they're all stacked. They got experience. They got good young talent. So it was a very interesting week. Arizona had a tough week losing to 3 unranked teams down in Maui. Just a very, very, very tough situation there for Arizona. Again, I said they're overrated, but they're not that overrated. And NC State's a good basketball team. That loss doesn't really bother me, but the rest of them did bother me. Villanova got tested by a very, very tough Western Kentucky team, a team that you would be not surprised to see in the tournament in March. They're very, very good. Give them a nice test there. Wichita State's one loss comes from the Notre Dame team who, look, Notre Dame always flies on the radar. Notre Dame's got pros on the team. Bonzi Colson. I mean, they're a good basketball team. Are they a top 10 team? No, they're not. They're not a top 10 team. Are they a top 20? Yeah, they're top 20. They're more like a 13 to 18 kind of team. But they had a good win there. They played very well. Made shots when they had to. And, that's really all it came down to. It was a great basketball game between Notre Dame and Wichita State as Notre Dame wins the Maui Invitational. Purdue had a very bad week. Tennessee didn't look too bad in their Tennessee doesn't look too bad so far. They played particularly well. down in Atlantis. So you might have to keep an eye on them as a surprise. The SEC might end up being better than we thought. The Big Ten doesn't look better. Purdue had a rough week. The Pac-12 doesn't look better. Obviously, Arizona had a rough week. Look, I think the Big Ten and the Pac-12 took major steps back. But first of all, the Big Ten was bad last year. Pac-12 was better last year. But I think the Pac-12 taking a step back. I think the Big Ten's gotten worse. So it doesn't bode well in that regard. But for those two conferences, but I think you have to like what Tennessee did. Tennessee hung in there against Villanova. Villanova had a very good week. I thought Xavier had a good week. By the way, that Western Kentucky team that I said was a team to keep an eye on. They beat Purdue. So, Rhode Island had a big win against Seton Hall, who's expected to do big things. I still feel confident in Seton Hall, but Gonzaga beat Ohio State, which, again, I don't think that's a huge deal because I think Ohio State's not really much anything this year anyway. But Big Ten's going to have a very, very rough year. And look, Purdue beat Arizona. But again, I don't think that's much of an indictment on Purdue. I think it might be more of an indictment on Arizona. Let's see what else. Any big other developments? Florida, again, I mentioned Florida was very impressive this week. I'm down on Vanderbilt, but there's other teams, the SEC, worth checking out. I know one of Mike's favorite teams that gets overrated every year and everybody jumps on their bandwagon. St. Mary's, Mike. I know you love St. Mary's. St. Mary's last week.
Right. Kindly never say that again.
I'm being sarcastic, Mike. So stop.
I'm well aware that you were being very sarcastic.
Don't say it again.
As you well know, you and I both love a nice sarcastic bar here and there. But please, not even in a sarcastic tone. Can I bring myself to tolerate the shittiness that is St. Mary's?
Well, they lost to Washington State.
Even lose to the good Washington?
No.
Washington State hasn't been good in about 10 years. They weren't expected to be good this year, by the way. Washington State, everybody had St. Mary's is definitely one of those teams that could be a Sweet 16 stunner. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Well, they kind of took the air out of those sails pretty early this year.
No. They're going to play their entire schedule. Nobody's in shitfest in their conference. They're going to lose both head-to-head.
Right.
All the head-to-head matchups with Gonzaga.
Well, you know what's going to hurt them?
So there's going to be experts out there saying that St. Mary should be in the field of 65. Competition for the NIT.
You know what's going to hurt them this year, too? Gonzaga, even though Gonzaga is still going to be a decent enough team, they're going to be ranked all year. Gonzaga's not what they were last year. So, with Gonzaga not being at that level, even if St. Mary's were to beat them, it ain't going to look the same as it did last year. So, anyway, so St. Mary's got a little upset there on Friday against Washington State. Alabama lost to Minnesota Saturday in a game that got a lot of attention because they used 3 players in the second half. Alabama did. They still and Minnesota ended up winning the game 89-84. Minnesota's a team that a lot of people think will rival Michigan State in the Big Ten. That's not, again, saying much given the Big Ten, but we'll see. We talked about Duke, Florida, Michigan State, North Carolina. Texas A&M with a big win over USC, who is a team I like a lot. I don't buy A&M yet, but a lot of people are high on them. I don't buy them yet, but I think they're worth taking notice of. USC as a team I think USC might end up being the best team in the Pac-12. We'll see. But, we'll see. But again, we'll see if that means a lot. I mentioned St. Mary's, Mike. St. Mary's had 2 losses this week. I'm sorry, I missed this in my notes.
Oh.
They lost to Washington State, and then they turned around and lost to Georgia in
You have
overtime.
notes?
Yeah, I have notes. They're on my screen all the time.
That's more interesting. Georgia still sucks.
Yeah, but they lost to Washington State, and then they turned around and lost to Georgia. So they're 5-2.
Yeah. Well, Georgia still sucks. But to be fair, Georgia's going to be one of them scrappy SEC teams that could be competitive in the conference, despite the conference sucking some big old dick.
Well, let's talk about a team that is starting to get top 25 votes, and we're not just being homers. That could have a big week here if they can win on Saturday. Syracuse.
Oh yeah. No, totally. We're not just being homers on this one.
Well, no, but they're 6-0, and if they end up now Kansas at number 2. If they end up winning on Saturday, then they might not just be ranked; they might be top 15 ranked. If they end up
winning on Saturday against number 2 Kansas. I don't know if you were saying something there because
no, you're good. You're good. I stopped for you. You go ahead.
They managed to beat number 2 Kansas. That's a major non-conference win. They still won't be ranked after that, but that's just how the weekend is.
I think they'd be ranked.
There's a chance they'd be ranked. But if Syracuse can still find some way to beat Kansas, this is early season Kansas.
Yeah. They're easier to get at this time of year.
They're beatable.
Yeah, they're beatable. And they haven't really played anybody outside of that game against Kentucky. So,
and Syracuse does have the height. They have the rebounding, and they have the length to really challenge Kansas. It's just the Kansas' 3-point shooting is on point. We might be in for a long day.
Yeah.
But if the length and it can really get on Kansas's nerves and they can kind of hurt those passing lanes and maybe kind of get up in some of these big shooters' faces, Kansas might be in trouble. The other thing is if Syracuse's offense really fires on all cylinders. They beat Maryland.
Yeah.
3, 4, something like that. They beat Maryland by less than 5 points. And let's be clear here. They should have beaten Maryland by like 15.
Right.
They missed easy shots. Syracuse's offense is on point. And they could really fuck with Kansas's offensive rhythm. Beating Kansas.
Right. That's going to be an interesting game to watch on Saturday, that's for sure. And Syracuse could end up having one of the most definitive starts to the season that we've seen this year outside of the top 5 if they pull out a win on Saturday. Because you see a lot of inconsistent play from some teams from 10 down, from top 10 down. So, Syracuse could make a big jump if they win on Saturday. That was the first game of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So we had holiday tournaments last week, and then we went to the ACC Big Ten Challenge yesterday. Syracuse, Maryland was the first game. Syracuse won that. And then the second game, if you enjoyed the first game between Syracuse and Maryland, which was a great game, good offense, great competitive basketball, certainly you turned the TV off during the second game, which was an embarrassment that set the college game back about 5 years to the time when we had no offense. With Virginia and Wisconsin, a 49-37 classic win for Virginia.
If I were the coach of Virginia, I would bench all of my players for the next game.
Good Lord.
Play the walk-on for that embarrassment. Yeah, they beat Wisconsin, but good Lord. What a rough game. That was a terrible game.
That was a bad game. So that was a rough, but hey, Virginia gets it. So the ACC up 2-0 there. Tonight you had a couple of good games. You had Baylor, Xavier. Xavier wins that one 76-63. So Xavier's now 6. Xavier's had a good, nice. I mean, they've had a couple of bumps, but they've had a good start so far. Purdue beat Louisville tonight, 66-57. I watched a little bit of this. I didn't really like Louisville in this game. I think I saw some red flags from Louisville from an offensive standpoint. Very, very poor shot selection. I think Louisville might end up having a down year this year. Not just because of the Rick Pitino thing. I think offensively they lack a go-to guy. They don't know where to go in those. And sometimes that comes from coaching. Like the coach can identify that guy. Like this is the guy we're going to go to. They lack that kind. I mean, sometimes coaching can make that decision for you, but then other times it just has to happen. It has to make itself apparent. Regardless of whatever happens here, I think Louisville just doesn't have it. I don't think it matters if the coach was there to decide it, and I don't think it's going to manifest itself. From what I've seen of them in 2 games, I've seen them twice. I don't like the looks of Louisville. I just don't. So, so I don't know what you're going to expect there. So the Big Ten's gotten on the board there. As far as just let me sum this up really quickly. I think, Duke has shown a lot in coming back. So I think you take a lot from that. I think you take a lot from Florida, even though they lost. Florida looks really, really good. I think that I think some teams did surprise you a little bit. In bad ways, like Arizona, like St. Mary's, even though they're always overrated. Like Purdue, even though Purdue beat Louisville tonight. Purdue's been kind of up and down. Michigan State surprised because I didn't think they had enough to beat Carolina. They did. That's a big win for them. Some surprises, some big wins. This next week, as I said, Syracuse, Kansas on Saturday. In that Hoopball Classic is going to be a big game. Villanova starts their little trek through PA this week. So I don't expect them to be challenged much over the next couple weeks. Tomorrow you got Michigan, North Carolina. You got Miami, Minnesota, which might not be a bad one to watch. Duke, Indiana, which probably will be a very, very ugly one to watch. From a standpoint of Indiana. So those are a couple of interesting games. Seton Hall, Texas Tech on Thursday might be okay. Notre Dame, Michigan State will probably be good. Notre Dame jumped all the way up to 5, which I think is a terrible decision. But maybe that'll take care of itself against Michigan State. So those are some interesting games there. Friday, there's a couple really good college basketball games to be had. On the surface, North Carolina, Davidson might seem like a bad game, but I could see Davidson hanging around in that game. Creighton, Gonzaga is a good game to watch. Creighton's been a surprise early season, so I definitely consider checking that one out. Cincinnati, Xavier, which, as Mike will tell you, that's always got some tension to it. Old school rivalry game, that one. So Cincinnati, Xavier on Saturday. Wichita State, Baylor. So Wichita State's challenging itself this year. So a little bit of a good game there to watch on the road at Baylor for Wichita State. That's in Syracuse, Kansas. SMU and USC will play Saturday. That might not be bad. SMU has been kind of under the radar, but they always are under the radar. So they're always under the radar. Seton Hall, Louisville on Sunday. I could see Seton Hall winning that game, to be honest. That one might be worth checking out. And then Monday and Tuesday, as we take a look at the rest of the week, Monday, Florida State, Florida. Florida State is 6-0. Been a little bit of a surprise. Florida 5-1. I think Florida will probably win it, but that's obviously a game worth checking out. Villanova will play Gonzaga in Game 1 of the Jimmy V Classic next Tuesday. So that will be interesting. They'll be on the air opposite that. That same night, you also have Virginia versus West Virginia. That could be either really good or really ugly. A little bracket buster game for you on Tuesday of next week. South Dakota State versus Wichita State. Might not be much of a game, but if you're looking at some bracket buster games, South Dakota State's a team that could be in the bracket. Nevada, Texas Tech. That might be another little bracket buster game, that one. Nevada could be in the mix. Texas A&M, Arizona. SMU, TCU, because TCU is unbeaten in rank. That might be interesting. And you also have Syracuse and Connecticut in the second game of the Jimmy V Classic on Tuesday next week as well. So some big games next Tuesday. and over the next week. So even though, holiday tournaments are over and, the ACC Big Ten only goes to a Thursday, there used to be some big games still throughout the week and weekend. So lots of big college basketball to check out and something. And I think we're going to learn a lot about some teams over the next week. If you haven't learned a lot about them already, some teams are going to learn a lot about them next week, particularly Louisville, Syracuse, Arizona, how they rebound. You're learning a lot about some teams. Mike, do you have anything more to add on basketball?
The fact that Michigan State beat North Carolina at this point in the season is a expected thing. If it happens in March, it's a goddamn miracle. Of course, you and I talked about Duke a little bit over text. Are still under the impression that Duke did beat Florida, but of course Florida kind of to the earth. Excuse me. And while it's true that Florida does have significant growing pains, it's also true that in many Duke games it is often 8-on-3 out there. I'm thinking something else. 8-on-5, 8-on-3. Minnesota versus Alabama, and Alabama ended up with three players who are eligible to play. Minnesota's 5 regular roster players, and the referees who decided that Alabama didn't need a team to play that day. Alabama almost won that game. Pulled it out. So you know what? If there's any team who deserves credit this week, it is, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, the Alabama men's basketball team for almost doing the unthinkable and beating fucking Minnesota with only 3 players available. Second half, they almost pulled out the win. Going against them too. Also, big ups to Portland State. If the referees didn't give Duke that game, we'd be sitting here saying Portland State shocked the world by knocking off #1 Duke. But let's face it, the referees thought, hey, let's give Mike Krzyzewski his early Secret Santa present, and they gifted him the game. Game with a ho ho ho, but not the Rick Pitino kind. That's all I got to say.
Okay. All right. So again, it's gonna be a big week in college basketball, and we'll see how it all shakes out. It should be some interesting, like I said, some interesting games. We're gonna learn a lot about some teams this week. So, all right. We move out of sports, and we did a lot with sports tonight, so good on us, I guess. We jumped to wrestling, and we have Raw last night, SmackDown tonight. Not a whole lot going on. SmackDown probably had more going on than Raw. Raw had a few developments. They continued to further the Braun Strowman, Kane angle. Roman Reigns defended the Intercontinental Championship against Elias Sampson, who kind of filled in for Miz in the Miztourage. It was a good match. Rollins and Cesaro had a good match, and Ambrose gone on his honeymoon. They kind of and Sheamus on a sabbatical. They kind of tabled that tag team feud for a week. Next week they'll have the tag team championship match, title defense for Sheamus and Cesaro versus Ambrose and Rollins. The women's division stuff continued to further its way out. We saw Paige and her new stable pretty much run through the division and then back off to Asuka, which, not really shocking there. Asuka had a nice quick match with Dana Brooke, if you want to call it that. You had what looked like the beginning of broken Matt Hardy, and apparently that's where they're going. It's been teased it's all over social media now with Matt Hardy, and looks like the beginning of that was his match with Bray Wyatt. You had that, and the furthering of Jason Jordan's heel turn. Other than that, that's pretty much all you had on Raw last night. There wasn't a whole lot going on. So really, SmackDown was where it was at this week, and SmackDown had a good show. Earlier tonight when I was when I was talking about the NFL and I got distracted for a few moments, that was because I had the TV volume up and I heard the ending of the main event where Kevin Owens beat Randy Orton, and that kind of shocked me a little bit. So, and I was shocked. I mean, yeah, there was some help from Sami Zayn, but I was really shocked by that. So much for everybody thinking he had so much heat he was going to take a pin to somebody. And by the way, that was from what I've heard, it was a great match. It was a fun match, and you had that at the end of the show. They started off the night with the continued tension between Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon. And that has to be going somewhere because they keep using it. We'll see where that continues to go. They did some more stuff with the women's stable on SmackDown. I guess Naomi got stretchered out, so I ran an injury angle there. I'm not sure if she's taking time off or not, but that might be a development worth checking out. AJ Styles was beat down by Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers, only to beat the Singh brothers in a handicap match. Apparently, did a Styles class off the top rope, from what I heard, which apparently was insane. And then I guess they did a really fun episode of the Fashion Police tonight, which I haven't seen yet. I haven't read the full spoilers yet, but I guess there's some further development with the Bludgeon Brothers and such. But obviously, the Owen Zayn thing was probably the big angle again, other than AJ and Jinder. But obviously, they always get overshadowed kind of by the Owen Zayn stuff. And I guess that was the big angle, and I guess it delivered. The main event sounded like it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch it. So, but yeah, I think we can safely say that Kevin Owens has no heat on him, right, Mike?
Considering he just pinned,
yeah,
in a match where Randy Orton was relatively motivated.
Yeah,
that's right, Mike. You sound lovely over there. Sound lovely over there.
Oh God,
not you, Brian. I was talking to me.
Oh,
but anyways, and Randy Orton was relatively motivated in this match, and he and Kevin Owens put on a hell of a match. By the way, Orton, excuse me, this was a no disqualification match unless Sami Zayn ended up at ringside, in which case Kevin Owens would be disqualified, which makes no sense. But hey, so Sami Zayn does interfere in the end. Sami Zayn was never ringside. And that's important to note. Sami Zayn was not ringside. He attacked Randy Orton on the... Technically, Sami Zayn was well within his rights to interfere in that no disqualification match as long as he wasn't ringside. And he wasn't, and he beat Randy Orton with a chair. Way, Sami Zayn is a heel genius who has all the heat in the world on him and probably would have lost this match if it were the other way around. But Kevin Owens, however, of one of the most viewed specials in the history of the WWE network.
Yep.
Of course Kevin Owens is going to win here. He's got no heat on him. The top 5 merch guy right now. Kevin Owens has got the DVD that was one of the hottest selling WWE DVDs of the last 5 years. One of the top specials in the network. So what are we going to be doing with Kevin Owens, and why isn't he WWE champion right now? Long story short, I mean, AJ Styles is fine, and honestly, I don't really want to go back to Owens versus Styles right now, but why not?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Why not?
Can't get any worse than Jinder Mahal, AJ Styles, so why not?
And let's be clear here. We are in the middle of Jinder Mahal versus AJ Styles.
We've been in the middle of it.
Yeah, this is where we are now.
So, But yeah, SmackDown had a much better show this week, I thought. And I haven't even watched it yet, but just judging from what we're seeing. And I'm gonna leave off. There hasn't been a lot of big wrestling news over the last week. There's been rumors about Batista potentially making a full-time return and little things like that, but nothing concrete. But Brie Bella did this interview where she mentioned that the process of Daniel Bryan being cleared by WWE is still he's still trying to do that. And Daniel Bryan's been speaking a lot more favorably of WWE lately in terms of what they have to go through. They're responsible for stockholders. It's not that easy with everything going on with concussions. I am really starting to wonder if this might actually happen. Because, you know what I mean? The way that they're teasing, I mean, we know a year ago they teased a lot with Daniel Bryan and Miz. But look what they're doing with him and Shane. It's a major focal point now. So, I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I don't know if they're just keeping their options open. So if they decide to clear him, well, okay, we have an easy storyline opening. You know what I mean? I don't know what the deal is, but boy, they're really the last month or so. It's really starting to make me wonder about Daniel Bryan.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything. I'm not sitting here with any knowledge of I don't have any spoilers or anything. I haven't heard anything in particular. But if you read the tea leaves, especially this time of year with WrestleMania season, if you read the tea leaves and you kind of look at what they're laying out, you would think that something's coming there. That's just, typical WWE kind of planting seeds that might be used in a couple months. So it's going to be interesting to see if something comes of this, or it's just going to end up like the Miz situation where, it just never went anywhere. But so yeah, SmackDown had a pretty good outing tonight, much better than Raw. I think these next few weeks for wrestling are going to be very, very, very light. Now there's going to be a lot going on. Obviously we have Clash of the Champions in a couple weeks, but other than that, I don't think you're going to see a lot going on. You're going into the holidays. Right after we get out of New Year's, and Mike knows this too, right after you get out of New Year's, that first Raw of the new year, that's when things are going to start to amp up again. You'll see a lot of build towards the Rumble and a lot of things going on, and that's when it becomes really fun because we start to see things materialize. So, should be might be, like I said, might be a little bit more on the light side, more on the boring side, very uneventful, but they'll pick up again. They'll pick up again. All right, so we got through everything. That's it. We had a lot.
But Braun Strowman murdered Kane. That was worth talking about.
Oh yeah, that was yeah. When your top face gets his one up.
Yes, and Roman Reigns had a really good match. A really good match. A really good match. It was Elias's coming out party. He and Roman. If he had a really main event level match with Roman Reigns, that opened some eyes on Elias, and I honestly think he did that. Absolution Paige's group, right?
Yep.
Run through Sasha Banks and whoever else in the early in the night. Was it Bailey or Mickie James? It was Mickie James. They run through that group of women earlier. Asuka, a standoff ready to fight Asuka. Asuka does not back down, by the way. And then the three women who, by the way, 2 out of the 3 Asuka made tap out like a bitch in NXT. I guess pun intended, but whatever. Back down, and that's when Asuka kind of leaves the ring okay. So, by the way, Asuka's that good where she made 3 women who are running roughshod over the division stand down just by being prepared to kick their ass.
Yeah.
Nobody ready for Asuka.
Let me just add this too about Elias Sampson. With Miz being out for who knows how long, and them being apparently down on Bray Wyatt, and Kane's probably somebody that's gonna be in and out.
Mm-hmm.
There is a hole on Raw for a heel, top heel, and I do think that Elias Sampson's gonna be it. I think what putting him with Roman Reigns last night and what they did with him and Roman and what the performance he had, I think that was like a litmus test. I think you're going to see Elias get a little bit of a mini push out of this. I really believe that because he's over. He's got the heel heat. You know he can put on a good match. I think you'll see that happen. I think you'll see Elias Sampson have a little bit of a run here, and he deserves it. He's been kind of underrated and not talked about nearly enough over these last couple months. So, all right. So we got through the wrestling stuff. We got through everything. We had a lot to do tonight. We got through it. So. Oh, I can breathe. All right, so that's it for tonight. As always, the show might be over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting or contributing to the show. You continue to have your voice heard. Again, you can always send us your feedback, reactions, comments, opinions on things we talked about, topic ideas, breaking news items related to sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight401@gmail.com. Remember, you can follow us and tweet us at ITSpotlight411, and hashtag ITSpotlight411 is the hashtag you want to use whenever you tweet directly to us or whenever you tweet regarding the show. And, of course, as always, you can find us on Facebook. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and to make sure you like us and follow us. Again, social media, please, Facebook and Twitter, follow us, like us, tweet us. Very important. That's Facebook and Twitter is where we post information about the show, updates on the show, scheduling of the show. We also post random thoughts and stuff on there as well. So to have access to all that and be able to keep track of everything that's going on, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, search for us at IT Spotlight 411. And on Facebook, search for In the Spotlight 411 and make sure you like us and follow us. And again, you'll have access to all of what I mentioned and more. And you want to do that so you can keep up to date on everything that's going on. And of course, again, we post random things on there as well, so you can have some fun with us as well and interact with us and all that good stuff. If you like to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes, to search for us on. You have two ways which to do it. You can search for us on you can search for us on Google Plus and YouTube, where you can stream us anytime. You can stream every episode we've ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode. Those episodes are available for you to stream anytime you want on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. If streaming is not your thing, maybe you prefer to listen to us or listen to us on the go, or maybe interested in older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Podbean and iTunes. And once you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites. You have access to every episode that we've ever produced in the over 7 years we've been doing this show. So it's every episode for our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011. Everything for our Talk Show run from January 2011 all the way up to mid-October of 2015. And, of course, all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up to tonight's current episode are available as well, all transferred into audio format for your convenience. Every episode we've ever done, in order from the most recent being tonight, all the way to the oldest in October 2010, all in audio format. You can listen to them anytime, listen to them on the go. They're all available for you to listen to anytime you want. Again, maybe you maybe want to check an episode from 4 or 5 years ago, maybe for the first time, maybe you just want to check it out again. Maybe you missed a Parliament episode, maybe miss an episode entirely. If any of that applies to you, just want to listen to us on the go. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search for In the Spotlight 4. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. On Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. To search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411 on all those sites. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
I want to thank Wendy's for a delectable,
wow,
transcendent today with their chicken nuggets and the best damn honey mustard any fast food restaurant can offer. So I want to say, time for bed. I am super tired tonight. I'm going to sleep.
Bravo, Mike. Bravo. That was you carried us through the entire show. I am very impressed. Very impressed. Of course, I want to thank myself for a great show, parents, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. So those that be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. And to Wendy's, well, you just got product placement for the better part of 2 hours. So, hey, welcome. So I think Mike pretty much put over your chicken tenders pretty well. So
I said chicken tenders. I said chicken nuggets.
chicken nuggets. Well, they're both good, but yeah, chicken nuggets. So, but anyway, he put those over. He put chicken nuggets over. So hey, you're welcome. All right, so that's it for tonight. So again, to those that be listening or watching this later, thank you to you as well. That is it for tonight. Our next show will be Thursday. Again, we got 2 shows this week back on our normal schedule. We'll also have 2 shows next week. The week after, we might only do 1. Again, I'll let you all know more about the schedule as we go along here, as we approach the holidays and then what's going to be going on in January and all the change. Well, I know there's a lot of questions. We'll get into them as we go along. I'm not going to address them right now. It's nice just to have a normal week here because the last couple of weeks have been pretty hectic. So as we go along, I'll give you all more information and more updates. So just be patient. We'll address things. Don't worry. So that is it. Again, Thursday, a normal Thursday show, entertainment, box office beat, TV highlights, and then we'll do some entertainment news because we haven't done a lot of news discussion lately. We haven't done a lot of we've been doing special topics and all that kind of stuff. We'll just have like a kind of free form kind of deal, random entertainment stuff that our audience has asked us to talk about, or things we should talk about, or things that I think we're talking about, whatever. Nice little mixture, like we've done in the past, or like we used to do quite often. So that'll pretty much be the show on Thursday. So Thursday should be pretty short. It won't be a lot to do, but it'll be kind of like a breather kind of show because we did a lot tonight. So, but yeah, that will be Thursday's show, and again, 2 shows next week as well. So until Thursday, I hope you have a great rest of your night, a great Wednesday, and of course a great day during the day on Thursday. We'll see you back here for our next show this Thursday, November the 30th, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, good night, everybody.